Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns confirm heartbreaking news about Seth Rollins' injury. The WWE Universe is in shock after Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman officially revealed devastating news about Seth Rollins' knee injury. What does this mean for his career, the World Heavyweight Championship, and WrestleMania season? In this video, we break down everything that went down, how it happened, what Heyman had to say, Roman Reigns' chilling reaction, and what this injury could mean for the power struggle in WWE. Don't miss this explosive update with exclusive backstage insight and storytelling you won't find anywhere else. The crowd didn't understand what they were watching. At first, it looked like part of the act, a stumble, a wince, a pause for drama. But then Seth Rollins stopped moving. Not in the way a professional wrestler pauses before the next pop, but in the way a human being reaches his limit. His leg trembled, his hands went to his knee, and the moment that would echo through the WWE universe was sealed and silenced. It was supposed to be just another step toward WrestleMania glory. A televised Saturday night main event. Routine. Safe. Controlled. But within seconds, the show became a crisis. What happened to Seth Rollins in that ring was more than a freak accident. It was a devastating injury. And now, we have confirmation, from two of the most powerful voices in professional wrestling, that the damage is far worse than anyone imagined. In a rare joint statement backstage, Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns broke their silence. Their words were slow, calculated, and cold. No theatrics. No bloodline posturing. Just the truth, an unfiltered, uncomfortable, emotional truth. And when Roman Reigns, the tribal chief himself, nodded solemnly during Heyman's revelation, the entire locker room understood, the king of WWE had fallen. And no one saw it coming. To understand the weight of this moment, you have to understand what Seth Rollins meant to WWE, not just as a performer, but as a force. As a symbol. Seth had become the war general of the company. Night after night, match after match, he gave his body to the business. Whether it was in ladder matches, Hell in a Cell clashes, or grueling 30-minute showdowns, Seth never walked away. He limped. He crawled. He bled. But he never walked away. That's what made his collapse so terrifying. This wasn't a rookie tweaking an ankle. This was Seth freakin' Rollins, World Heavyweight Champion, WrestleMania headliner, company cornerstone, unable to even finish the match. And once the cameras faded and the crowd dispersed, the WWE medical team made it clear, Seth had suffered a complex tear in his right knee, ACL, MCL, and meniscus. It wasn't the first time he faced this injury. But it might be the last time he walks away from it. Backstage footage, never aired on live television, captured the immediate aftermath. Paul Heyman, who had once declared war on Seth alongside Roman Reigns, stood frozen outside the trainer's room. His lips moved, but there were no words. For the man who always had something to say, for the man who weaponized language in every storyline, Paul Heyman was silent. When the press gathered, expecting a damage control speech or a vague medical update, what they got was something no one expected. Heyman stepped forward. He didn't speak from behind Roman Reigns. He didn't defer to WWE PR. He spoke as if delivering a eulogy. What happened out there, Heyman began, is not just a setback for Seth Rollins. It's a crack in the very foundation of this company. And it hurts us all more than I can put into words. Then came the words no one wanted to hear. He's out indefinitely. Behind him, Roman Reigns didn't smirk. He didn't flex. He didn't say anything. He just stared ahead, his tribal chief persona stripped away. For one moment, it wasn't about heel versus face. It wasn't about factions or belts. It was about legacy. It was about grief, because deep down, Roman knows, no matter what storylines were unfolding in the ring, his war with Seth Rollins was real in a way few rivalries ever were. The Shield wasn't just a team, it was a brotherhood. And now, one of those brothers was broken. The news spread fast. Fans online posted photos of Seth being helped into the ambulance, his face pale, eyes glazed with pain. His wife, Becky Lynch, was reportedly pulled from her next booking and flew directly to the California Medical Center where Seth was rushed that same night. The two had fought together in and out of the ring, raising a child, building a brand. And now, they were facing the most personal fight of their lives. The implications were immediate. Seth Rollins would be stripped of his title, the World Heavyweight Championship. The belt he carried with honor, even through injury, would now be vacant. And just like that, the entire WrestleMania season was thrown into chaos backstage. The atmosphere was tense. Superstars who had lined up for their chance at the title now found themselves standing in a vacuum. Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, CM Punk. All of them had been circling like sharks, waiting for Rollins to fall. But no one wanted it to happen like this. Not even the heels. Reports surfaced that Triple H called an emergency creative meeting within hours of the diagnosis. Vince McMahon, despite being less involved in day-to-day affairs, was informed immediately. And it was Roman Reigns, not a doctor, not a producer, who made the final decision to break the news to the WWE Universe. Why? Because whether they admit it or not, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns have always been two sides of the same coin. And when one falls, the other feels it. Paul Heyman, ever the strategist, used the announcement to shift the narrative. "This is not the end of Seth Rollins," he said. "But it is the beginning of something none of us can control. When a kingdom loses its king, the vultures come. And believe me, they're already circling." Roman added only one thing. One line. "He should have stayed down when I told him to." Was it a threat? A moment of cold honesty? Or was it grief in disguise? No one could say for sure, but the truth is simple: Seth Rollins didn't fall in storyline. He fell in real life. And that changes everything. What happens next could define WWE's next era. With Rollins gone, the door is now wide open for chaos. Damian Priest still holds the Money in the Bank briefcase. CM Punk, the returning anti-hero, is more unpredictable than ever. Cody Rhodes has yet to finish his story. And in the shadows, Roman Reigns still rules with blood-soaked hands and a crumbling family behind him. Seth's absence doesn't just leave a title vacant. It leaves a moral void. The locker room had looked to Rollins as a leader, a warrior, a standard-bearer for what it meant to be a champion. And now, without him, the structure is fragile. Even more haunting is the reality that this might be the end. Doctors are whispering about a 9 to 12-month recovery, minimum. And even then, there's no guarantee that Seth will ever return at full strength. This is the same knee that shattered once before. The same joint that has carried him through a decade of ladder matches, stomp finishers, and championship defenses. The body can only take so much. And time is not kind to wrestlers. Still, if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that Seth Rollins never stays down. This is the man who came back from an ACL tear in 2015 stronger than ever. This is the man who turned betrayal into empire, pain into fire, and injury into reinvention. If anyone can come back from this, it's Seth Rollins. But make no mistake, this chapter is different. This time, it's not just about his return, it's about what's left when he's gone. WWE must now choose: do they honor his legacy or exploit his absence? And Roman Reigns, knowing the battlefield is now his alone, must decide what kind of king he wants to be. Because now, the only man who stood toe-to-toe with him on equal footing has been silenced. And in that silence, anything is possible. As the WWE Universe waits for updates, one thing is clear: Seth Rollins' injury isn't just a headline. It's a turning point, and when the dust settles, we'll all remember the moment the visionary fell, and the empire began to crack. Let us know what you think this means for WrestleMania season in the comments below. And if you want to hear exclusive updates on Seth's condition, possible replacement title plans, and backstage drama you won't find anywhere else, subscribe and stay locked in. As the wrestling world reels from the shocking confirmation, the aftermath has only begun to unfold. In the days following Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns' announcement, social media turned into a storm of grief, speculation, and fury. Hashtags like #PrayForRollins, #WrestleMania without Seth, and #vacant champion trended worldwide. But behind every tweet was a deeper, more troubling question: what does WWE become without Seth Rollins? Because Rollins wasn't just a champion. He was the glue holding a fractured WWE together. In the locker room, whispers turned into arguments. Some superstars, privately, and in hushed tones, expressed what many were thinking: this wasn't just an accident. Rumors swirled. Was the injury avoidable? Was the match too long, the spot too risky, the pace too reckless? An unverified report claimed that Paul Heyman had concerns about Seth wrestling that night, citing prior stiffness in his knee and the grind he'd been under. Others say Roman had tried to warn him, weeks ago, during a heated but off-camera exchange. No cameras. No mic. Just two war-torn generals behind a closed door. "You're burning out," Roman allegedly told him. To which Seth reportedly replied, "That's what a champion does." The tragedy, then, may not lie solely in the fall, but in the warning signs ignored. It didn't take long before Triple H addressed the WWE Universe. In a somber backstage segment, stripped of theatrics, he confirmed what everyone feared: "We don't know when Seth will return. We only know that until he does, the landscape has changed." And then, as if on cue, the Predator circled. CM Punk was the first to strike. In a scathing promo on Monday Night Raw, Punk stood center ring and held up a photo of Seth Rollins on a stretcher. His words? Chilling: "Wrestling's Messiah, carried out by medics like a broken prophet." That's not just pain, that's poetic justice. The crowd didn't know whether to boo or gasp. But backstage, no one was laughing. Several sources claimed that Punk's segment wasn't entirely scripted. That he'd gone off script just minutes before going live. That Heyman tried to stop him but he didn't, and so, the line between story and real life blurred once more. As the crowd processed Punk's venom, another storyline was quietly being rewritten. The Money in the Bank briefcase suddenly became the most dangerous object in WWE. Damian Priest, who had been lying in wait for months, now stood one open contract away from power. Without Rollins in the picture, his opportunity had mutated into leverage. Behind closed doors, creative meetings exploded into debates. Should the title be filled via tournament? Should a one-on-one match decide the next champion? And should Roman Reigns, the undisputed Universal Champion, be allowed to merge the belts again, claiming WWE supremacy in Seth's absence? Paul Heyman reportedly lobbied for exactly that. "It's only right," he was heard saying. "If the belt is lost, it should be restored to the head of the table." But not everyone agreed. Cody Rhodes, fresh off his recent win streak, voiced his frustration on SmackDown. "Seth was the mountain I was ready to climb. Now that mountain's gone. But I didn't train for a detour, I trained for a summit." His message was clear: he wanted the title. He wanted it now. Even more surprising was the return of Gunther, the longest-reigning Intercontinental Champion in recent history, who appeared backstage during Raw and stared silently at the vacant World Heavyweight title belt. No words. No music. Just presence, because when the throne is empty, even the quietest men begin to roar. But while others saw opportunity, Becky Lynch saw only loss. In a rare interview with WWE Digital, she broke her silence. And what she said brought the audience to tears. "I watched him scream and grab his knee, and I couldn't do anything. Not as a wrestler. Not as a wife. Not as the mother of his child. I could only sit there and wait for the doctors to tell me what I already knew." Becky has since taken indefinite leave from competition. She's by Seth's side, not in the ring, but in the recovery room. The two are reportedly staying in a private facility in California, away from fans and press. The same hospital that treated him in 2015 is now treating him again. A closed loop. A haunting full circle, and it's not just the injury haunting WWE, it's the emotional fallout. Behind the scenes, relationships are being tested. Storylines once set in stone are being rewritten daily. Producers are on edge. Superstars are unsure of their futures. Roman Reigns, while dominant, now faces an uncertain enemy in the form of a vacuum. A void. A lack of balance, because say what you will about Seth Rollins, his presence kept things in check, and now, without him, the Bloodline's dominance has no counterforce. No resistance unless something more calculated is brewing behind the curtain. Some fans believe this injury wasn't just a tragic twist of fate, but a strategic turning point. A theory gaining momentum online claims that Heyman and Reigns knew Seth was vulnerable. That they played the long game. That they let the weight of the company grind him down until the break was inevitable. Sound far-fetched? Maybe, but the timing, the reactions, the eerie way Roman watched Heyman deliver the announcement like a scripted eulogy, it all feels too coordinated. Point one thing is certain, WWE is no longer on stable ground. WrestleMania, once headlined by Seth Rollins and a mystery challenger, is now a blank canvas. Who will step up? Who will claim the title Seth was forced to leave behind? Roman? Cody? Punk? Priest? Gunther? Or will someone else emerge entirely from the ashes of this heartbreak? What no one can answer yet is whether Seth Rollins will ever return. The doctors are clear, he'll need surgery. Multiple ligaments are damaged. Recovery will be long. Painful. Uncertain. There is no quick fix, but knowing Seth Rollins, his pain tolerance, his obsession with the craft, his refusal to be forgotten, this isn't the end. It's a pause. A brutal, crushing, soul-altering pause, and when he returns, the world better be ready, because there's nothing more dangerous than a broken visionary with something to prove. Until then, we wait. We watch, and we ask ourselves one haunting question: if this could happen to Seth Rollins, who's next? Let us know in the comments. Should WWE crown a new champion immediately, or wait for Seth's return? And who do you think will rise in his absence? Subscribe now for exclusive updates, backstage insight, and the real stories that shake WWE to its core. This is just the beginning. While the WWE Universe still struggles to accept Seth Rollins' devastating injury, a deeper, more unsettling question is beginning to rise through the cracks. What if this was all part of something bigger? In WWE, nothing is ever just what it seems. An injury is never just an injury. A pause never just a pause. And when Paul Heyman speaks, when Roman Reigns stands silently beside him, what sounds like sympathy could, in fact, be strategy. That suspicion has begun to haunt the locker room. Multiple insiders have come forward anonymously, hinting that certain individuals within creative had discussed contingency plans weeks before the injury even occurred. One unnamed producer was overheard saying, "If Seth goes down, we already know who steps up." That statement might sound harmless, until you realize it was said 10 days before the match. And then, of course, there's Paul Heyman, the wise man, the master manipulator, the architect behind Brock Lesnar's dominance, the Shield's implosion, and Roman Reigns' empire. Heyman doesn't deal in accidents. He deals in inevitabilities. And to many, it feels like he's been planning something massive, something that required a void as large as Seth Rollins to pull off. So what if Seth's injury wasn't a setback, but a green light? Let's rewind. At the beginning of the year, Seth Rollins was holding WWE's highest in-ring honor, the World Heavyweight Championship. But Roman Reigns still held the undisputed Universal title, longer, heavier, more dominant. Two kings ruling two sides of the same company. Seth's mission was clear: restore credibility to a division overshadowed by the Bloodline, and he was doing it. Match by match. Promo by promo. Title defense by title defense. Until he wasn't. And now? With Seth out of the picture, Heyman has moved swiftly. Sources backstage have confirmed that Heyman has already begun lobbying for a unification match, merging the World Heavyweight Championship with Roman's Universal title under one champion, Reigns. But there's more. Leaked internal documents, according to one source close to the creative team, suggest that Heyman submitted a new storyline pitch less than 24 hours after Seth's diagnosis. The pitch reportedly repositions Roman as the sole savior of WWE's future, claiming that the brand has been directionless without him. Coincidence? Or confirmation? Meanwhile, Triple H is said to be furious behind closed doors. According to insiders, he had personally fought to keep Seth's title reign independent of Roman's dominance, to maintain two flagship champions with equal respect. Now, with Seth gone, those efforts are unraveling fast, and then there's Roman himself. Since the announcement of Seth's injury, Roman has not appeared on television. No interview. No promo. Not even a backstage cameo. The tribal chief, once ever present, has vanished. Why? Some say it's out of respect, others believe he's letting the chaos build. Before delivering the final blow, backstage producers have described the atmosphere as radioactive. Superstars are unsure what to say. Seth's absence has created a vacuum, yes, but also a silence no one wants to break. The Shield brothers, Roman, Seth, and the now-departed Dean Ambrose, once ruled WWE together. And now, two remain. One is wounded. The other is watching as his path clears. Watching as his throne expands. In the midst of all this, Becky Lynch continues to remain by Seth's side. But reports suggest she's also preparing for something more. She's angry, one close source revealed. Not just about the injury, but about the way it's being used. Becky, a fierce protector of her husband and the sport they both love, is said to be privately confronting WWE management about the direction the company is taking in Seth's absence. She reportedly rejected a pitch that would have seen her return solo to feud with Bayley for the women's title, calling it disrespectful and tone-deaf. This isn't just about gold anymore. It's about principle. Legacy. Loyalty. But WWE isn't known for patience. Already, new contenders are being quietly built up to step into Seth's shadow. Among them, Braun Breaker, the explosive powerhouse with bloodline ties and a push long overdue. Damian Priest, now under pressure to cash in his briefcase while the field is wide open. Gunther, whose ominous silence is louder than any promo. Cody Rhodes, who may finally finish the story not with Roman, but by claiming Seth's abandoned crown. And then, most shockingly of all, Jey Uso. Jey, once Roman's enforcer and now a Raw standout, has remained quiet on Seth's injury. But last Friday, in a moment that cameras barely captured, he was seen walking out of Seth's empty locker room. No words. Just a long stare at a photo of Seth holding the title. What was he thinking? Regret? Ambition? Revenge? Time will tell, because WWE's most unpredictable season is now upon us, and it's been baptized in uncertainty. WrestleMania was once building toward a monumental clash, Seth Rollins versus a yet-to-be-named challenger. Now, it's a question mark. A spinning roulette wheel of egos, opportunity, and desperation. Roman Reigns might take advantage. Or he might fall next, because if this injury has proven anything, it's that no one is untouchable. No knee brace. No championship belt. No bloodline can protect you when fate decides otherwise. Seth's fall wasn't scripted. It wasn't booked. It was real. And that reality has shattered the illusion that WWE can control its own chaos. And in the chaos, new kings rise. Old grudges resurface. And the line between pain and opportunity disappears. There's a phrase Seth used to repeat, over and over again, in promos, interviews, and backstage speeches: burn it down. Maybe now, we understand what he meant, because sometimes, for something new to rise, something old has to be destroyed, and what's left in the ashes is what defines us. Let us know in the comments. Who do you believe should replace Seth Rollins as World Heavyweight Champion? And do you think Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns had a hand in this power shift? Be sure to subscribe for ongoing updates, inside backstage intel, and a closer look at the most dramatic shift in WWE storytelling in years. This isn't just a story about an injury, it's a story about power and who's willing to take it, no matter the cost. In the days since the injury, Seth Rollins has not spoken publicly. No tweets. No videos. No interviews. Just silence. And for a man who made his name through fire, passion, and undeniable presence, his absence is deafening. But that silence is not empty. It's heavy. And it's being filled by others. Whispers are beginning to surface from inside the California hospital where Seth is recovering. Medical staff, bound by confidentiality but shaken by what they've witnessed, have described his condition as far more complicated than previously reported. According to one off-the-record statement, the damage wasn't just to the ACL, MCL, and meniscus. There were concerns about nerve impact and possible muscle detachment, something far more serious than anyone initially realized. One insider stated, "There's a difference between recovering and walking again without a limp." And suddenly, the question haunting WWE insiders isn't when will Seth return, but will he return at all? Back in Stamford, Connecticut, the conversation is shifting. WWE executives are no longer focused on waiting, they're building without him. Emergency creative teams have been assembled. New WrestleMania match cards are being drafted. Factions are being reshaped, and at the center of it all sits Paul Heyman. Heyman, now more visible than ever, has returned to his role not just as a manager, but as a shadow kingmaker. In recent SmackDown tapings, multiple segments have been rewritten just hours before airtime to include subtle teases of a future without Seth. Quiet backstage monologues. Interrupted interviews. Mysterious glances at the championship belt. In one moment that sent shivers across the fanbase, Roman Reigns stood in the center of the ring, held up his Universal Championship, and said, "This is the only belt that matters now. The rest? Fallen like their champions. No names. No direct shots." But everyone knew who he was talking about, Seth. But the drama doesn't end there, because in a stunning backstage twist, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, once parallel stars with no reason to cross paths, have now been thrust into each other's orbit. And it's not by accident. Triple H, faced with the gaping absence left by Rollins, is said to be orchestrating a new main event narrative, a battle between past redemption and unfinished business. Punk, the rebellious veteran returning after a decade of exile. Cody, the legacy son still chasing the final chapter of his story. With Rollins gone, these two now represent the extremes of WWE storytelling. But neither of them, no matter how popular, can fully erase the void left behind, because Seth wasn't just a wrestler. He was the blueprint. From the architect of the Shield to the architect of modern WWE pacing, Seth's fingerprints are all over the product. He set the standard for match quality, for promo authenticity, for championship prestige. And now that standard is in jeopardy, some superstars have quietly admitted, "We don't know how to follow him." Even veteran performers are struggling to recalibrate. Kevin Owens, in an emotional moment after a recent live event, reportedly told fans during a dark match, "I was supposed to face Seth at Mania. That's what we were building to. Now I don't know what comes next." Neither does anyone else, because there's another layer to this heartbreak. Rollins wasn't just carrying WWE in kayfabe, he was physically carrying the company on injured knees, month after month. Sources now confirm that Rollins had been wrestling through chronic knee inflammation for over 6 months. He'd refused time off. Refused surgery. Refused rest. He insisted he could go, until he couldn't. Backstage agents reportedly tried to convince him to scale back his in-ring schedule after Survivor Series. But Rollins pushed harder instead, main eventing Raw after Raw, building WrestleMania momentum, driving ticket sales and merch numbers. He was obsessed. Unstoppable. Until he finally stopped. Becky Lynch, through a close friend, allegedly said this to WWE brass, "He died on that mat for you. And you didn't stop him." A harsh accusation. But one that resonates, because now, the damage is done. And WWE is forced to answer a difficult question: what happens when your greatest workhorse is no longer able to run? In the midst of this emotional spiral, one man has stayed uncharacteristically quiet, Triple H. The Game. The man who once mentored Seth, who saw in him a reflection of his own past. He has yet to deliver an official on-camera tribute. Some believe he's grieving. Others believe he's preparing something monumental. A tribute package? A surprise Hall of Fame induction? Or something darker? There's one rumor swirling, and it's controversial. Multiple sources claim that WWE is considering using real-life injury footage from Seth's collapse in an upcoming promo package to build heat for a new heel faction, possibly led by Braun Breaker, Solo Sikoa, or even CM Punk. The idea? To weaponize Seth's pain for emotional momentum. Fans are already divided. Some call it exploitation. Others call it classic WWE, turning reality into spectacle. But one thing is clear: Seth Rollins' injury is no longer just a medical crisis. It's a narrative fork in the road, and whatever comes next will be built on the ashes of everything he gave. As the next few weeks unfold, expect WWE to test boundaries, to push grief as story, to leverage absence as power. And don't be surprised if Paul Heyman is behind every shift, because in a company where every fall is a ladder, every scar a storyline, no one climbs without stepping on someone else. And now? They're all stepping on Seth Rollins' name, but remember this: Seth may be down, but he's still watching. From that hospital bed, with knees braced and body broken, the visionary is still burning, planning, calculating.